are here not only to present my credentials, but to seek ways to foster our relationship and deepen the cooperation between our two countries.
How is Belize within Israel's strategic interests? We know Israel is one of the most polarizing nations on earth.
Belize is an important country in where it lies geostrategically. We have a very close relationship with Central America, with Mexico, with the United States, and therefore Belize is part and parcel of this region and of this strategy. Because Belize is a member both of SICA and of CARICOM, and is part of the inland Central America, obviously it plays a bridge or a role in connecting both groups, both regional political groups. We would like to come closer to both CARICOM and to SICA.
But at the UN, Belize has voted in support of Palestine.
Well, we understand sometimes that not all countries that are our friends necessarily always vote in full accordance with our interests or our desire. That is one of the items, obviously, which we raise in our meetings here, that we would like to see Belize maintain a more favorable and balanced approach and voting pattern, vis-a-vis Israel in the United Nations and international organizations.
Is the number one thing you'd like to see a change in that group by Belize at the UN on the Palestinian issue?
Well, as I mentioned further, we would like to see a slightly more balanced approach. Belize has a record, as your colleague rightly mentioned, very, I would say, one-sided. We would like to see a more balanced, favorable approach or voting pattern of Belize vis-a-vis our issues. And again, that is one issue which we discussed with our counterparts here, and we'll have to wait and see.
Might you not see how there could be a lack of sympathy for Israel in Belize, because Israel, it is the United Nations has attested recently with the resolution 2344 that Israel is encroaching upon the territory of another country. Belize is a small country where our neighbor, Guatemala, seeks to occupy, take away half our country.
Well, I think the two conflicts are very different. They come from different origins and they have a different outcome. But I do believe that the only way to resolve these conflicts is through direct face-to-face negotiations.
Israel is fond of speaking of face-to-face negotiations. But when one feels, as a smaller nation, that one's neighbor is chauvinist in their ambitions, the idea of face-to-face negotiations is not that appealing, because there can be no just or honorable outcome a small nation feels with a larger nation that has such ambitions. How do you view this point?
I mean, every conflict has its own mechanism. As long as the parties to the conflict are willing to accept a commonly agreed upon mechanism, that is fine. I was referring to direct negotiations, face-to-face negotiations in the case of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Not necessarily this mechanism has to apply one-to-one to the Belize-Guatemalan dispute.
Israel has supported Guatemala militarily. Would you discuss the history that Israel has in support of Guatemala? And then how, if that history exists, how then do you say, well, we come down equitably on the Belize-Guatemala issue, when historically the record shows that Israel has been pro-Guatemala?
First of all, we haven't stated our opinion on this issue. It is true that we have a long-standing relationship with Guatemala. Guatemala is a state or a country that has been independent for slightly longer than Israel and slightly longer than Belize. Traditionally, they voted in favor of the establishment of the Jewish state in 1947 in the United Nations, and we've had a good relationship with them. But once Belize became independent, we were quickly recognized and established diplomatic relations with Belize, and we don't see our relationship with one or the other country is coming at the expense of the other.
He made a direct analogy between Belize and Palestine and Guatemala and Israel. Were you aware of this? Is this something that grieves you?
As I mentioned before, I think these two disputes, these two conflicts are totally different in their nature, in their origins, in the way they should be resolved. So I don't necessarily accept a direct analogy between the two cases. And we respect the way that Belize, together with Guatemala, is trying to resolve this issue. We have our ways of resolving ours.
Do you believe, though, that Belize should maintain its territorial integrity of 8,867 square miles from border to border?
We understand fully Belize's position, and we were given yesterday an explanation on it, and we definitely understand Belize's position, and whatever the government and people of Belize decide upon through this mechanism which you mentioned earlier, we will support.
But Israel has no formal position on the territorial integrity of Belize remaining intact.
We obviously would like to see Belize remain intact, but we believe at the end of the day that it's not for us to judge the outcome or decide for the two parties what is best for them.